Hello. I don't know why we need to use this.
It's for the recording.
Oh,
It's
right.
our minutes.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I'll call the meeting to order then. And we will take a roll call.
Andrea Wheeler,
Here.
David Burkhardt,
Here.
Jeff Micko,
Here.
Susan Scory.
Here.
Okay, so the first item on the agenda is a public comment period. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the committee on any matter not on the agenda. Is there any members of the public that wish to comment?
There's none.
Then we'll move on to the approval of the March 22nd minutes, which we should all have a copy of the minutes to review. Any questions or comments on the minutes? Does someone want to make a motion to approve?
I move to approve. Second.
We take a vote, or is that enough?
We'll do a roll call vote. Andrea Wheeler,
Yes.
David Burkhardt,
Yes.
Jeff Micko,
Yes.
Susan Scory.
Yes.
Motion passes. Moving on to new business. As we don't have any new business, there is also not. Oh, I'm sorry. We do have two items that are informational. So the first item is the informational item overview of the annual budget and work plan process. Just kidding.
Good morning, committee members. I'm a little nervous. It's actually my first time live back in person. But as requested in the committee's last oversight report, staff is presenting an overview of the annual budget and work plan development process, as well as how staff reports on the project budgets and progress. So just to kind of start off with the typical timeline, the budget and work plan report is the guiding document for staff to record and track expenditures for approved projects. And this process of developing this report takes more than 6 months, and it's definitely a collaborative effort with many staff members on deck. We typically start around this time, in around November, December. Leadership team and executive team reviews and confirms strategic priorities. The general manager might even highlight some priority projects that she believes aligns with the mission, the expenditure plan, objectives, and other strategies. And in conjunction with department managers, project managers are assigned projects, and we start to declare reachable milestones that we intend to deliver in the upcoming fiscal year. And so based on those milestones, project managers also kind of develop the budget for that year as well, what would be needed to accomplish the milestones. And so that usually happens around the January, February timeframe is when the project manager kind of, develop their team, who's going to be working on what, kind of assess staff capacity as well. As we kind of compile and draft and work on that, in March, we hold a board workshop, and we would present and discuss with the board some of the proposed projects and milestones in that workshop. We gather feedback from the board, listen to their thoughts, and kind of come back and kind of iterative process, kind of refine the work plan draft. And come April, my team, as well as leadership team, we kind of start to compile this report, and the budget is presented to the admin and budget committee in May. And they will provide feedback on the budget, provide some questions that they might think might come up during the public hearing. And they would recommend to staff to say, hey, let's bring it to the board in June. And so the entire board holds a public hearing in June to review and approve the budget. So what happens after the budget and work plan is approved? So we have a few reporting tools that staff uses. After the board approves the budget, all the data regarding any in-progress projects, as well as new projects and the budgets for those projects are actually placed into our system in Acumatica. So you might have seen that system being mentioned throughout the status reports. That is our financial system in which we track where every dollar goes. It gets assigned to a project number. And so it gets entered into a lot of different places. We have different Excel sheets besides just the system that we share with staff to kind of like collect data and progress. And it's our continued effort to refine this reporting process based on feedback from staff. We ask leadership team, the oversight committee, as well as from the board and even members from the public on how we could better report. And so we do use a number of tools. A project request form is needed to be completed for new projects. And that form provides the executive team the cost of the project for the next 5 years, what funding sources will be used to pay for that project, the expected outcome or deliverables for that project, and then also staff capacity. Who will be working on that project? Do we have the human resources to deliver? And so when that project is approved, a unique project ID is created in Acumatica, and that would allow staff to capture all the staff time and costs toward that project. And then that is the main depository that I pull all the data from for the board, for project managers, as well as for the oversight committee to review. At the same time, we also have a work plan tracker. It is a shared Excel document that's created for the fiscal year's project and milestones. And staff at every quarter, they would then put in what has been completed. I also run project cost reports of how much has been spent in that quarter. All that information is reported to the board, and they are publicly available documents on our website as well as part of packet. And every time spending is required for the project, staff does submit a PO, a purchase order in the system. And purchase orders help staff track the contract balances for that project. They help the project manager track budgets, and accounting can also track the approvals to ensure that we're compliant with audit and internal controls as well. So as I mentioned, every quarter accounting runs individual project cost reports to compare the budget versus actual. So what's project managers have declared, how much they were planning to spend for the project, I run a report on what was actually spent, and we kind of compare. And so leadership team and the board does get a financial update every quarter and in the status of the milestones. In a scenario, if a budget amendment is required, those do go to the board for approval whenever it's necessary. And then project delays are also reported to the board via those quarterly updates or informational report from staff. And at the end of the fiscal year, an independent financial auditor conducts the audit to review the internal controls and express the opinion of whether the financials that we present from our books are free from misstatement. And so we further compile and summarize every dollar of MQ and MT in a separate audit report that's categorized by program area as well. So those are all the different tools in which we have that governing document of the budget and work plan report. Then we have these tools and where we keep referencing back and making sure that we're within budget and making sure that we're delivering what we told the board we would deliver in the work plan. And so with that, that's the overview of the process of developing the budget and work plan, and then how we have the different mechanisms to kind of manage the budget. Any questions?
Yeah, committee members, why don't maybe I can start with you, do you have questions?
I am wondering,
Before you start. Yes.
thanks for that report.
Mhm.
It was enlightening. I'm wondering what percentage, do we have from the last fiscal year, what percentage of measures Q&T are against the entire operational budget for OSA?
I can send a follow-up email. I don't have it off the top of my head.
Okay, it's, can you take a guess?
So in terms of revenue, our total revenues are 12 million. And then we no longer have Measure Q revenues anymore. Measure T replaced
Okay.
Measure Q. But it's 8 million out of the 12. So basically 2/3.
Okay.
So that's just revenue. But typically our expenditures are kind of following along that proportion, considering that we also budget like according to revenues as well.
And remind me, this is a fundamental question. Measure T, is that a sustaining source of revenue?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm. It's a pretty flat but sustaining continuing revenue, parcel tax revenue.
All right, thanks.
No problem.
Yeah, and that's kind of all the information I needed, so
Thank you.
that's back deep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering, did you have all these tools available when Measure Q was first passed, or have they evolved with the evolution of Measure Q?
Definitely has evolved. In fact, Acumatica was one of my first projects. I was hired to find a financial system that could help track how the dollars are being spent. Prior to Acumatica, we were using QuickBooks.
Which was, I remember that, not quite as. Okay.
So definitely it's been evolving. The work plan tracker was definitely a product that came out from feedback, I think from the 2018-2019 Oversight report that the committee submitted about tracking status of projects. So that became a reporting tool that we've been giving to the board quarterly. And so that was during this type of like evolution.
It's nice to know that we've accomplished something besides looking over that.
Of course.
Beth, do you have any questions?
I guess I could ask about more granular information, unit cost of taking care of specific types of facilities, so that the manager can get an idea of how many dollars per restroom or at different sites, or you can just more granular cost for programs mostly.
So to be frank, while that data is available, because we can then look up the vendor and how much we spent to date, we pretty much to date probably looked at just at a preserve level, how much it costs to operate each preserve. And there's also various variances in the preserve because some are open to the public. Some have the restrooms, the staging areas, versus some are just perhaps just light on the land. They're open, but we have docent led. There's no public amenities, for example. And then some that are not open to the public. So it's just patrol and trash pickup and nothing, too fancy. But we would track the costs of operating the preserve. They do break down by, like, for example, the different tasks of operating the preserve, such as, and David can always chime in and speak to it, but there's patrol, there's also just invasives for vegetation management, fire management, grazing. We do track those by the different types of jobs that are done in managing the preserve. But I personally haven't looked to a granular level of how much the restrooms might have cost.
That was just sort of like all I
Exactly.
think of.
Mhm.
But, when you look at unit costs, sometimes it's illuminating. You can track how things change or different from one side.
Mhm.
Informed decision.
Yeah, but we do look at the preserve as a whole of how much that costs and track that. But Lee, did you have anything?
Yeah, if I may, through the chair, just something to add, it's a great example of a program cost. So the department manager, Derek Newman, would be looking at that, at those costs probably more closely than say Justina would be. As his team orders those supplies, directs the crew. So I will bet you that Derek Newman has a ballpark number in his head, because he's a little closer to those numbers, but and as department managers do build their new budgets, and that's why I feel very confident that Derek's got a very good mind for how much a particular task might cost as he builds new budgets, whether or not we've got new restrooms coming online, but we've noticed these restrooms are used and abused. They take a little more TLC to maintain. All of that he builds into the budget for future years. So I think someone a little closer to the actual expense line would have that, at least a rough estimate.
Thanks. Yeah, my experience was that sometimes we looked at unit costs of particular activities that we were conducting, that they were extraordinary, and it was, I don't know, maybe the manager, I don't know what they were doing, but it was definitely I'm sure you guys, it sounds like, thank you.
Thank you.
So the reason that this came up during our audit process. And so I'm wondering if this year during our audit process, so we look at 12 projects, if I remember correctly. So we would be able to look at the prior years, the final report, budget report, and see, okay, this is where this falls. This is the project it falls under. Is that correct? I mean, it'd be a small piece of it, but we'd know which project it falls under.
Correct. Yes.
And then, so it sounds like there's quarterly work plan reports that will say this is on track or it's not on track. So if we were interested, could we look at those trackers too and see what happened with that project over time?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think we want to try and say we should absolutely do that, but maybe when we're working on the audits, if like an individual or team that's working on audits is interested in this, maybe we can do that. Like, I think the final budget report is online, right? But the work plans are not.
The work plan is in the budget and work plan report. That's the entire report comprises of different sections. One's like just pure numbers. The other one is a work plan.
Okay. So we can kind of look back in that report and find the projects and see. Okay.
Yes.
I think we should just keep that in mind. I think that's something you and I would be interested based on what we did last time. We might want to just look and see what we see and see if it's helpful or not.
Yeah, that's important to understand
Please
the
use your
process.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. It's important to understand the process a little better. And, I don't know how involved we want to do as far as a formal review, but
Yeah.
Understanding that from the beginning to the end helps us. And at minimum, puts another set of eyes on that to, maybe help improve the process, or maybe say, is this a wasteful? You guys spend a whole lot more time on this than we do, but I see that EPOC as just something that is not just reviewing, but providing some help as far as process goes.
Yeah, so that's all I'd say, unless anyone has any other difficulty. We can keep it in mind when we do the audit, and if it's helpful, we can talk about whether it's something we want to integrate more fully into the audit process later. That sounds okay.
I have one more question. How does the OSA board view the EPOC, the Measure Q and EPOC process? Are we helpful? Are we a contributing factor? Or are we a gadfly?
That'd be the former, it won't be the latter.
If that's it.
Definitely they do review the recommendations. That was how we came across, creating that work plan tracker. It was more of like the board providing that direction and be like, okay, well, what kind of tools can staff think of that can help address, the feedback that, EPOC had provided. So again, and then the board being more involved with reviewing the quarterly financial updates with that tracker. I think that has been helpful to them too as well. It keeps them in the loop, and it definitely keeps them engaged as well.
Any other questions from committee members? Do I take public comment at this time? Is there any members of the public that would like to comment on this informational item?
There are none.
Yep.
Thank you.
So we have a second informational item, which is, I think this is a good time for you to give us the tutorial on how to say the new name of Coyote Ridge. I'm sorry, who's speaking on this one?
And actually, Madam Chair, I'll introduce, or I'll cover this item.
Great, thank you.
So first introduce you to one of your tour guides this afternoon is David Mock, our natural resources technician. Lucas Shellhammer, our planning manager, had planned to be here as well, but is out with a sick child today. So Jennifer Hooper is on her way in from the field to assist with the tour. She's our associate open space planner. You're going to get to go to two great sites today. First, you're going to go to Sparkles Hill, and David's going to give you an overview of the invasive management work that's been done out there. In particular, I think this is a great example of the work we've accomplished with staff time, but also through volunteers. He'll tell you more about that when you actually get to get your shoes dirty out there. And then you'll go to Mayan Oyakma Coyote Ridge Open Space Preserve. That's our new name for the preserve. And that is public access project literally underway. So Jen will know more of what's being done in the moment, but we broke ground just within the last few weeks. So very exciting. You're getting a very exclusive view into our public access work so that we can establish a staging area. And we'll be inviting the public in a very, probably more limited way than we do with our other preserves, because the habitat is so special there. We need to be very careful with public access. And along that vein, we've all been handed, I think everyone got a copy of the naturally occurring asbestos notification. To give you a little bit of background, long story short, although it's a very short handout, it's just a couple of pages, but the serpentine rock, and I am not the expert, Jen can go into this in more depth when she's here, but the serpentine rock, which is a very special resource, actually does have naturally occurring asbestos. And so we take extra precautions when the soil is being moved. So because we've had earth moving equipment in case it's breezy out there, we have an assortment of safety equipment that you'll be using today, from hard hats, safety vests. We have N100 masks for your use, and safety goggles as well. Right, because it is actually a construction site. So we have all of those supplies for you today. We'd love to give you a few minutes before you head out and give you a chance to read that over and then ask any questions you may have. And then if you wouldn't mind signing and acknowledging that we went over that information with you. And there she is with her own hard hat. Jennifer, we just want to introduce you while you get settled. to the committee, just letting them know that you'll be doing the tour at Coyote Ridge. And those are the highlights. So what we'll do after we adjourn here, we'll load you up into a couple of vehicles. Both David and Jen are ready to drive. Okay, so since this is very last notice, thank you again for that. So we'll take the two vehicles out. Justina and Caroline are gonna join you on this tour. You'll go to Spreckles Hill and you'll get an overview from David. You'll go to Coyote Ridge, get an overview from Jen, and then back to the building. But we will have adjourned this meeting before you leave, and so there'll be no further business for you. Can I answer any questions, or can David or Jen answer any questions for you? Great to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Looking forward to it. Any members of the public wish to comment on this informational item? No. Okay, then we have the informational reports. Are there other informational reports? No. Yay, let's go. This meeting is adjourned.
Adjourn to field, enjoy.
Yeah, enjoy. I think you're on.